Data from the Registrar of Companies shows that the business names registered between April and November 2020, that's last year, rose 58.5%, as we've already told you, compared to a similar period last year. This, of course, like I mentioned, was the highest jump in a decade. The import of this is more and more Kenyans are either setting up businesses or they're thinking of doing so. So with me in studio this afternoon to talk more about this on what I would call our Business 101 is Renee Ngamau, who's a business coach and a lawyer, but more importantly, the convener of Super Circles for Women in Business. We also have Ribin Ondwari, who's a partner at Ashitiva Advocates, and he'll also be speaking to us about the legal implications of running a business, understanding that, and the tax regime in the country. Welcome to the show, everybody. A quick reminder that we are looking for your feedback. Please send us a text message. The number is 22422. The hashtag to use online is Business Now. And of course, we also have a WhatsApp line where you can send us your feedback, including a short video. Please do not dial our WhatsApp number. It is not activated for calls, but send us a quick 1-minute video and we'll post it here, and your questions and comments will be addressed on the show. That number will be showing at the bottom of your screen throughout this live newscast. So let's get right into it, and I'll begin with Renee on that. Renee, good afternoon, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So it turns out that we need to actually learn about setting up, registering, and running a successful business. What informed what you do and the course that you're doing? Obviously, there's quite a bit of concern about what people want and the sort of information they can get.
Okay, well, in order to tell you that story, I'm going to have to start off with this one. For 3 years, well, now almost 4 years, a partner and friend, Patricia Okello, and I have been running something called Super Circles for Women in Business. Sorry, Candid Conversations for Women in Business.
Okay.
And Candid Conversations for Women in Business is exactly what it says on the tin. It's an opportunity to sit for about 3 to 4 hours in a safe space, interrogate a particular area that women in business were finding very difficult. This was the genesis of everything we now run. We're coming back to the same challenge over and again of the areas they were finding it very difficult to penetrate. Because it is, we're educated. You were educated to do that, was educated to think about any profession, and we're celebrated for professions, from doctors right the way to a graphic artist. If today, celebrated part was take your skills and go and start a TV station, the skills that would be required of you are not skills you've learned thus far. It's a bit of a stretch to imagine that just because you're very good at the technical aspects of what it is that you do, that therefore you will be the marketing, accounting, the human resources, hiring, that you should therefore take on instead of sticking with your competence and creating the environment that enables you to continue to be what it is that you're good at. And this was what informed the Super Circles for Women in Business. We'll talk a little bit later, I'm sure, about why specifically women.
Yes, and get into what is different for men and for women. But it's really important to what you talk about, that, you know, many people find themselves struggling. So let's get into it. What were the major issues that came out during your candid conversations with women in business that then said, okay, you need to now start to have, classes that you're taking people through? What were some of the key issues that people struggled with in business?
Okay. Number one is how women do business. Okay. We've already seen the studies that have shown, including the Kenya Association of Manufacturers Women in Manufacturing study that came out last year. Interestingly, of your 5, manufacturing was not one of them, and yet as a country we intend to become a manufacturing country, and that should right there be a warning bell. Number one, women work in cooperation. Not to say that they're not competitive, but generally how we operate is more in cooperation, in exchange, rather than in competition. This in and of itself suggests that the way in which we will do business is in a collective format as opposed to a competitive format. Number two, there are problems that are endemic within the system, both of employment and of business that are targeted specifically at women, either by omission or by commission or by gender insensitivity through gender neutrality.
Okay.
And they needed to overcome that. What are some of these? Number one, it's starting a business, formalizing the business, tax regimes, financing that requires that you have collateral that is a lot more difficult for women to access than for men. Access to markets, particularly access to women-friendly markets. The speed and the rate of growth of women's businesses, of businesses generally. There's a presumption that when you start business, all our businesses are going to grow at the same rate. What we forget about the nature of where it is that we live and who we are is that I am running 4 or 5 things as a woman that, compared to a man, he is not having to deal with. This is just the reality. If I have children, it is up to me to, bring them up in the morning, wake them up, feed them, make sure that they get to school, make sure that they are catered for, etc., which means that my working hours are shorter and they are more distracted. How do we create an environment that enables women to be and to perform as well during that very shortened period of time? We also need to consider that women find greater barriers to access to just about everything, including information and partners. How do men go into partnership versus how do women go into partnership? And it is not a statement of, I'm not being discriminatory or critical of one gender or the other. This is just what the research has shown. Yeah. And so as a result of finding over and over that the questions that were being asked were not just the technical questions, which to be honest you could read anywhere, okay? But it was the creation of that safe space where we could literally, practically take you from what is your idea? How do you test the market? Where is the research for that market? How do you move from ideation to MVP, your minimum viable product? How do you take that product to market? We will even create the market for you to go and actually test the product. What are you looking for by way of feedback so that you know what to tweak? What about formalization, as I'm sure my colleague will speak to? What is the best form of formalization? You talked about, I think the numbers now, if you look at the 2019 Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, there was formal jobs created in Kenya, 78,000, more or less, okay? Right. Informal jobs, 767,000. Where should we be focused on? Similarly, look at the statistics for businesses that have been started in the formal and the informal sector. And yet you find that 93% of the women who are working in Kenya today are working in the informal sector. How do we bring them from under the table and get them actually a seat on the table?
Into formal.